are back for another AB Brunch, your Sunday rendezvous, special edition of the NHL Playoff, episode number 33 today. And we welcome back the co-host directly from Toronto, back in the house, Mr. ENORTAP, and from Ottawa, sit right now on this house, but not for long. He's going to be to another house at some point. Mr. MARKO is in the house.
How's it going, everyone?
Thanks for joining us tonight on the great Sunday morning, May 28th, 2023. We have a couple of subjects to talk about today. First of all, we'll talk about Montreal Canadiens, a little bit what's going on with NHL Playoff 2023. The Panthers are in, but again, we're not sure about the Dallas or the Vegas. We'll talk about the Memorial Cup. We'll talk about the World Championship 2023. USA just lost by a score 4-3. And then we'll talk about some other thing. And then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A for people in the chat. If you want any question, go to about a little bit, talking, of course, the NHL Prospect 2023 and open the door. The next 10 days going to have the combined NHL Prospect and Buffalo, June 4th to June 10th. It's something you have to follow up for sure. And Montreal can have a big decision to do for the next two players before June 1st. We'll talk about this situation next couple of minutes. So here we go, guys. That's what we got on the menu. I have a lot of people knock the door. Thanks to be with us. But today, Mr. ENORTAP and Marko, I don't know if you know see because I don't know if you show up right away or what's going on. But, we open the show with what we get on the menu. And today we got on the menu, guys, not the AB hot cake syrup, but now we have some crepes at la Montreal Canadiens, the ABS new produce by Luciano Graziano. We know Luciano is a great chef. Follow his passion for the last couple of years after he went to a couple of years at school at the Art Culinary and done kind of Napa or California, something like that. He's been there for 3 years, and now he's going to working with, first breakfast for the Browns. So we welcome him, and we thank him for his great recipes. And go to share. He's willing to sharing this, Marko. So if ever you want to prepare Browns like that, I have Montreal Canadian breakfast, but you can do this for your wife, and she'll be very happy about that.
You know what's most
that'll be the good thing about that one over there.
The chocolate drizzle is very, very impressive. And then the little cream poofs that are there are very, very, very professional looking.
Maybe he did not teach a little bit about how to stay healthy, but that's another subject for another time. We're going to maybe sell some kind of diet 21 days, super challenge, whatever it is. Things like that. But we appreciate a lot for Luciano. At least he continues to deliver his food every Sunday morning with the Hockey Nation show. Of course, we have a few people in the chat, so we're going to go welcome everybody very quickly. First of all, Nicolas de Gobi-Bono, directly from Sherbrooke, from your neighbor, Mr. Marko. Claude Richard is in the house. Somewhere on the road in Montreal, downtown, we talk about the road runner, Carrie Cournoyer. Somewhere is Halifax right now. I don't know if it's raining or sunshine, but I don't think he know. He bring the sun inside the chat. Mr. Rick Bengal is in the house this morning. Then we'll come back with Dimitra. And then following by Willie Snyder, directly from the downtown Arvada in Denver, Colorado. And then we have the deal, no deal. We have the real deal is in the house. Welcome back. And then our friend Melissa Zabra is in the house, followed by moderator Ron with Kings 20. And of course, the Luciano Graziano is in the house, ready to rock and roll. The oven turned on already. And look like we have everybody here in the house. So welcome, everybody. And you guys, you ready to rock and roll for the next 60 minutes?
Let's do it.
I think so. Can you guys see my video normally? Because it feels like it's lagging from what I can see.
So far, you're absolutely right. So for our Earth side, for me, it's looking good. I don't know if you think enough that.
Yeah, no, I'm lagging as well a little bit, but I can make it out.
Sound good to me. Sound good. First question for both of you. The Montreal Canadiens season 2022-23 is over. Now what's going to happen during off-season? So I want you to give us 1 or 2 subjects you think Hugo is going to do in the next couple of weeks until maybe on all the way to the UFA. What do you expect the Montreal Canadiens going to do? So not talking about specific case, but maybe what you maybe wish or maybe you really think Hughes is going to do for the Montreal Canadiens. So let's start it with Marko, following by ENORTAP. 1 or 2 subjects you want to talk about, open the door for that one.
Well, if it was up to me, Coach, I really, really want them focusing on the draft, right? So that's such a crucial draft. So I don't expect that they're going to be super active from now until the draft, because I suspect that a lot of their energy and focus is there. But as we lead into the draft, my hope is that they're looking for ways to replicate kind of what they did last year, which is to try to find a way to potentially accelerate it without sacrificing too much. But we've talked about this before. Like, I think we're at this stage in the development where we have many assets in the cupboard, and it's time to start maximizing the assets that we have to try to get even more elite assets. So to me, it's trading volume of assets for more quality or more specific assets that meet their needs, right? So I'm looking for them to be strategic in trying to convert some of the assets that we have to try to get exactly what they're looking for. So does that mean it's like another Kirby Doc kind of situation where we take a surplus in one area and try to target a player that's like in that similar profile that is maybe a young 22, 23-year-old player that's ready to kind of take a move? That's what I would love to see. And then also trying to kind of get rid of some of those contracts that we know are going to be an issue. Primarily Hoffman and Armia would be at the top of my list. There's one rumor out there about Gallagher potentially going to Phoenix. That would be a huge win if they could somehow manufacture that, but it's going to be tough, right? So those would be the two things: is really maximizing the assets to get more elite talent and clear some dead wood.
ENORTAP?
Yeah, I would say, you know what, expect the unexpected. And I say that from the perspective of it's not just about the draft. I think a lot of what they do at the draft, I think that'll be their primary concern in terms of having a plan A and plan B, especially for that number 5 pick overall. I think a lot of, you hear rumblings of a lot of little things that could be happening, like moving down in the draft to 8, moving up to 4, if they're really after Michkov or not. But more importantly, I think they're doing their due diligence in trying to explore creative ways of expending some of these huge contracts. And we've heard, as Marko mentioned already, the one with Gallagher possibly going to Arizona to bring him up to the floor of their cap. Today I heard also Edmondson going possibly to Pittsburgh and getting a first round pick in 2024. But we'd have to take back a 1 year. I forget who the player was, but I think we have to take back a bit of a hefty contract there, a $4 or $5 million contract from one of their players. So there's a lot of things I think they're going to try to explore. And depending on how the talks go with the other GMs regarding these areas, it will sort of help them dictate how they're going to select in the draft. Because if they can pick up another centerman, for example, then that clears away maybe going with wingers for the draft. And that's a little bit of addressing some of their needs, as well as probably picking the best athlete that's available at that point. So it'll be interesting. So I would say expect the unexpected. And I have a lot of confidence in the team that they'll do what's best for the organization.
Great to hear that. For me, it's just about, I think they have to give 2 players out of the roster. I think they need some spot. I'm talking about Jordan Munson and Mike Hoffman. I don't think so. Both of them not going to returning for 2023, 2024. So hopefully during the off season, they're going to do that. The reason behind that open up salary cap. And that opened up to maybe get a one bad contract like they did with Sean Mann last year. And that opened up another good pick for the Montreal Canadiens. So I wouldn't be surprised they go that way. If they turn out both them out, they'll open up, $7.9 million more on the salary cap. So they have some kind of flexibility. Already they have 9.3. from where we at right now, but still with the signature, the Caulfield, and then the RHP, Ilonen, and Pesada. But that make about like $9 million, maybe more. So I think there will be more flexibility about that. Some kind of rumor we heard the last couple of days: Pittsburgh, Islanders, Winnipeg, Washington. I don't know if one of you want to talk about specific rumor. I know you talk a little bit more, but what do you expect Montreal again to do? Or you think about, I know you talk about Arizona Gallagher. I don't think so. Gallagher will accept to go to Arizona for any reason. He will go there. He have no clause, no movement clause.
Does he have a no movement? I didn't think he did.
I think he does.
He does?
Yeah, I believe so.
I can look about that, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Like,
I sometimes. Sorry, I was just going to say I sometimes dread talking about rumors. I mean, it's a lot of fun, obviously, but it's all about speculation. Yeah. We're not in the room, to be totally honest, obviously, and it's based on where we see some needs and maybe teams that seem to fit together with the players that they have, probably to manage as well. So, I mean, we can throw a few out there, of course, but it at this stage it's very speculative, and you know, I don't know if they'll ever come to fruition, to be totally honest.
So he has plus submit 16 no trade list. Sorry about that. Just want to reconfirm about Gallagher. But he had both close. Okay. He had the NNTC and the NMC. So I just want to share it to, you know, correct about this. So, you know, he put the list of 16 we don't want to go. So maybe he would put Arizona there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or maybe he wouldn't. He's a golfer. I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as ENORTAP. To be honest, I haven't been. It's been so. I've been watching, you know, the World Championships and the Memorial Cup and the playoffs. You know, I have been following some of this, and there's so many rumors about coaches and GMs that I've been kind of more focused on that. I haven't seen that many really tangible good Habs rumors other than the Gallagher to Arizona one. So, Coach, if you saw some other rumors, I haven't seen those. So.
And after that, I will maybe another one to add, then I will go back.
No, I think you did a great job on your last video, Coach. You summarized about 3 or 4 of them that came up along the way. So I'll give you the opportunity to elaborate on those.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And no, if you want to mention it, you can.
Why the Pittsburgh? You talk about the 14th overall pick, right? That's what they tried to Montreal, maybe looking for that pick for the Pittsburgh, like they did like 13 with New York Islanders. That involved Joel Edmondson on that draft, that pick, and Montreal could get gave back the 32 plus the 37, whatever it is, or get another plus in return, and then Montreal retaining half of the salary of Joel Edmondson for 1 year. So that's a open door right there. The New York Islanders is Josh Bailey in return. They get Montreal Canadiens for a first pick or a second round pick. You have other things behind that, but I don't want to go deep about that. 2024 first round pick protected for the Islanders, top 10. Then the Winnipeg Jet is again Pierre-Luc Dubois. And then finally, the Washington Capitals is Manta, same scenario like Josh Bailey, and return to Montreal Canadiens. That's a one trade they talk about this. Second trade is Washington move up to 5 and Montreal go back to 8, and that's involved other things around. So this is pretty much about this, plus Arizona Gallagher. It was another name mentioned about the trade, but that's what the rumor we got from Montreal Canadiens the last couple of days for that. So that's, we have a crazy other trade like Dubois for Suzuki. I don't want to get there, but that's what we heard about that.
Yeah. And one thing I'll mention, Coach, though, is, the thing that's different from this year to last year is that there's potentially more sellers for their first round pick, even though, it's a deep draft. There are a couple teams, primarily Columbus and Nashville, that are apparently floating their picks out there. So that might make it a tougher market for Hugo to really wheel and deal in. So listen, any of the deals that you just described, like, if Pittsburgh was willing to give away their 14th overall draft pick for Edmondson and salary retention and our 32nd, well, that's a no-brainer, right? Like you do that every day, right? But I would be
Yeah, I think
shocked.
the
Like,
other player was involved with Christian Dvorak. So it was Edmonton, Dvorak, plus the first one pick. And
that's right.
Yeah. So even that, like, man, if that's true, then you pull the trigger on that for sure. But I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Pittsburgh, like, and don't forget, like, Pittsburgh is kind of in limbo right now too, right? They're not going to be making any major kind of franchise oriented decisions here with their future. Yeah, exactly. So that would be shocking if they did that. Pittsburgh is owned by an organization that's very metric oriented. So I'd be surprised that they kind of swing for the fences with a desperate move like that. But anything's possible.
Yeah, the reason behind that, because they mentioned during that trade, was because the Pittsburgh, the player they would select 14 would not be with them at least 3 years before that. Right. And they try to win, right? They try to use again that windows with Malkin and Crosby. So they think if they can get Dvorak, if they can get Edmondson, that will helping them, because they expect to lose Zucker during the UFA. But again, the fact they got Michael Granlund could be we'll see. But I think I would not be surprised Pittsburgh trade their 14th overall pick at some point for them.
Crazy.
They'll not wait for that pick.
That's not surprising. That's not surprising at all. I mean, it seems to fit the timelines for Pittsburgh. It would be crazy, and if I were Hugo, I would definitely go for that, and no questions asked. I think we're getting rid of a contract. They need some defensive help. We're getting their draft pick as well, so why not?
All I can say about Pittsburgh is I don't see any reason why. Like if Kyle Dubas is somehow watching a Habs YouTube podcast, Kyle, don't do it, man. Don't do it. There's no reason. There's no reason. There's not really any upside for you to go into Pittsburgh. It's a sinking ship, man. Why would you ever consider going there? Like, just wait for a better opportunity. Like, it's not an ideal situation. Like, I get that they think that they can squeeze out a little bit more from the toothpaste tube here, but I would not want to hitch my wagon to that sinking ship at all.
Yeah. We'll be interested what happened. We know he's going to be, in conversation for that part of there. So, look, we're going to move on to the next thing, and then we're going back with something else about the team. But we have to go with the World Championship of the 2023 right now in Finland. First of all, the game is over between USA and Latvia. And the final score, Lettonie in French. I like to say Lettonie. It's rare for one player score 4-3 against the Team USA. And on that one, I want to mention this because they look like they won like the Stanley Cup, the reaction. And it was packed of the people, fans. This is the first time they won a medal in a hockey tournament. And that's the reason behind that. And look about what's happening. Like they did very well during the tournament. Almost beat Canada yesterday, or like they still lose, but I think they did a very good effort, and they was in mission, and they did it. And USA, after they won the first 8 games, I believe, or something like that, and then they struggled with the last 2 games of the tournament for Dan Quinn. But tell us a bit more what you expected, what you feel about this tournament. We have a couple of prospects are going to be at the NHL Draft 2023 now, playing that tournament. And there are some kind of prospect with Montreal plays on that tournament. Farrell, Tuck, Hudson with Team USA, and then Montembeault with Team Canada with Justin Barron. Of course, we can talk about other players like Armia play for Finland, but most of the thing is about Team Canada play and the next 1 hour, I believe, or 90 minutes play against Germany for the final. Surprisingly to see Germany there. Last Sweden and Finland during the tournament. So give another review a little bit, guys, both of you, what you think about that tournament and maybe specific players. One is Montembeault. Going to talk about this after that. So let's go with ENORTAP on that one at the beginning.
Yeah, I want to congratulate, first of all, Latvia, because They put in a great tournament in my eyes, and if even if you look at their top 10 scores, there's nobody in the top 10 scoring that is from Latvia. So to me, it indicates a perfect team effort, a team that that, like, I think they finished third in the B division, and they put in a great game against Canada as well. That beautiful goal by Fantilli was the decider there, but they get full credit for that. And today the same thing. They came from behind, and then Christian Rubin scores in overtime. So congratulations to them. I thought it would be initially. I thought it would be probably Canada and U.S. In the finals, but it doesn't. It obviously didn't materialize that way.
Guys, I absolutely love this tournament. It's so much fun to watch, especially because it's during the day when it's in Europe. So it's like bonus hockey, during the day. It's pretty fun. And by the way, I think you called Latvia Lactavia. I think that's a yogurt, coach, but let's stick with
yeah. We talk about the brunch, so I put this on the brunch.
yeah, you're hungry. You're thinking about that keeps you regular, that yogurt, so it's good.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. But when we're talking about Latvia, the one thing, and I love hearing Gord Miller and Mike Johnson describe the game and talk about the fans, because they go to this tournament every year, right? And Latvian fans are absolutely famous around the world for how much they like to party. They're bringing drums on the plane, and it looks like it would be such a fun thing to do. So happy for that fan base. It's so awesome to see them finally win a medal. It's fully deserved. So watch in terms of how it's played out for the HABS players, starting with Team USA. So you have Hudson and Farrell that's on that team. I think overall, Farrell, I think it follows closely what my evaluation was for him when he was with the Habs at the end of the season. Not super at ease, winning puck battles and things like that. Kind of being on the wrong side of the puck sometimes. Even though he's known to be a good two-way player, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement there. When it comes to Hudson, I think overall he had a really good tournament. It seems like the analysts and even some of the coaches were pretty impressed with him. He definitely created a lot of offense. I think he had 6 points in the tournament. But the key thing, looking at his play, is the book on him is that he's not a big guy. We know that. So it's going to be tough for him in the corners. But the big thing, you'd expect a smaller guy to be he's very, very mobile, and he's very kind of crafty with how he can move. But his straight ahead speed is not as fast as you think he's going to need to be successful in the NHL as a smaller defenseman. So he needs to work on his speed, specifically skating backwards and being able to defend backwards. On the tying goal for Germany, you could, if you saw the goal, the guy kind of danced. He kind of turned him inside out a little bit, and he was kind of reaching. He was not even really skating backwards. He was kind of skating sideways and kind of trying to poke at the guy, and very similar a couple times in this game. So listen, I love Hudson. I'm very excited about him as a prospect, but you can see there's still a lot of room to go for him to be ready to compete, even at the AHL level, I would say. But I'm still really high on Hudson. But and then for Canada, Barron, he again, they're relying on him quite a bit. He's playing steady minutes for Team Canada. Pretty good tournament overall. Still a couple, very Barron-like, he's getting shots through from the point, moving the puck out very well, but still a couple of positioning things here and there. His battling is kind of not as consistent as you'd like it to be. A little bit fiercer in front of the net and in the corners would be good. But Montembeault, right? So that's kind of the thing that we're all most proud about, I think, watching this tournament. Last thing I want to say about this tournament, guys, to give some perspective. So Fantilli has how many goals so far? He has 1 goal, right? And just a couple points. And he's, everybody keeps saying how this year, the top 8 players would have went number 1 instead of Slafkovsky last year. So let's just remember that Fantilli, who's ranked number 2, and everybody is very quick to say, and I'm not saying that Slafkovsky is going to be a better player than Fantilli. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But let's not forget, just 1 year ago, Slafkovsky led this tournament in scoring, right? And Fantilli, who's a much higher touted prospect than Slafkovsky was, only has 1 goal. It was a beautiful goal, but Slafkovsky had some beautiful goals as well, right? So just a little perspective for Habs fans. Like, I know it's kind of a weird year for Slafkovsky, and he got injured and it's a bit tougher. He didn't have maybe the impact that some people thought he would. Not all of us didn't think he was going to come in and tear up the league. But to me, it's interesting, right? Like, where would Slafkovsky go in this year's draft if he had the same kind of world championship that he had last year, while Fantilli had 1 goal so far? It's an interesting question.
Yep.
He hasn't played poorly though. You're right.
No.
The offensive production hasn't been there, but he has played well. But you're right. I mean, there's even a lot of talk, and it'll be interesting when we get the final scouting reports from various places and people where they'll have Fantilli slated, because right now they're predicting him to have dropped a little bit, and maybe he might not go number 2 at this stage. He could drop as much as number 4.
Yeah, like, you definitely, some people out there debate his hockey IQ. Like, there's no questioning his straight. Like, to me, he reminds me of Pacioretty a little bit. Like, he's really fast, has a really nice shot. But to me, he's more of a winger. Like, I know it looks that way because he's been actually playing wing, but it's not just the fact that almost every time I've seen him, he's played wing. But I just think he plays like a winger. He's more of a straight ahead guy. Doesn't have a lot of kind of he doesn't have a lot of vision into his game. Like, he's not kind of, creating space and stopping and starting and, like, kind of finding seams. And something like, to me, a prototypical center is a guy who is going to come into the zone and kind of like surveil things and look to set things up for his teammates. And that's just not what I see from him. And one thing in terms of his attitude, he seems like he gets frustrated pretty easily, right? You saw that in the World Junior, like, when he wasn't really producing, he took a couple of bad penalties, and he did that again in this tournament as well too. He took like a really stupid penalty actually when he missed a scoring chance. So listen, I'm not crapping all over the kid. Like, he's a top prospect, but I would, if I was a team, like, I would definitely be, asking those questions, right?
ENORTAP.
No, as I was saying before, I kind of agreed with what Marko was saying. I mean, it's not that he's been horrible or by any stretch. It's just this offensive production hasn't been there, and that's one of the areas that obviously we've been touting for quite a while. Again, it doesn't mean much. We keep forgetting that they're young kids. They're learning. Each stage is a different growing rate for them. And he's not a player that I will say should automatically be in the NHL next year. He should probably do a year, whether it's in Laval, if he comes to Montreal, or if it's any other team. I think he needs that extra year of maturing, and he will be a definite asset in the NHL. That kind of size and skill set is not commonly found, especially in centermen. So I look for.
Do you think he's a centerman? Do you think he's a centerman?
I mean, a lot of these players always start off as centers and then have to settle in as wingers, obviously. I think he has the potential to be a solid centerman, but it depends also the team that he goes to and what their situation up the middle is, right? They won't hesitate to put him on the wing, let's put it that way, if they're strong up the middle already, because he's got that size. He heads to the net. He knows how to get involved. He digs out pucks well. Good skater as well. So those kind of things, like I said, they're not common features that you find in most athletes, and it'll definitely help any team that drafts them.
Yeah, great comment about that. The only thing I would say is maybe the only players can drop in the ranking. So when I said that, he's considered number 2, but I'll not be surprised, like Shane Wright last year, go from 1 to 4. like many people expect. So I would not be surprised if Fantilli go from 2 to 5. That would be not surprised.
Don't forget, guys, he's like he's an older birthday too, right? Like, so I think he's like 9 to 10 months older than most of the guys there, right? So there's some people that might look at his production in college and say, you know, it was really good, and like it's not nothing to scoff at, but at the end of the day, like, he is 8 to 9 months older, so you'd expect him to be at a higher level than some of the people he's competing with in that top 5, in that group of players that are being considered, right? So that's one thing that they're going to definitely, like, 8 to 10 months is a huge difference at that age in terms of physical development, right? So these are all things that, like we talked about earlier, like what do we hope the Habs are doing? We hope that they have every brain in the organization looking at every potential solution that might, situation that might come up, who might drop to them, who they like, who they don't like, doing all their homework on that. That's what you really hope that they're focusing on right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen that the stock of Leonard has really risen now? So that'll be interesting if he can make it up to around 5 and Michkov's gone. They're saying that Montreal could be looking in that direction as well.
He's a good player, man. I like Leonard.
Yep. Russell Smith in the house. Welcome, Russell. Thanks again. We have Jerry from Sweden in the house. Welcome back. And then Woody said, do you know how many Michigan Gold Medal has? I don't know. Maybe 1? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Me too. I don't know.
We guess one, but
Montembeault plays solidly right now with with Team Canada. You can see a lot of people getting now to get number 1 spot, everything like that. If you have a deal like in 1 minute, what it will be your best offer for Samuel Montembeault right now?
I think I mentioned it the other day. For me, around 2.5 would be, I think, fair over a 2 to 3 year process, probably a 3-year contract for $2.5 million. I think that would be fair to him. It would be fair to the team. He's definitely part of our future moving forward, unless we strike it rich in terms of drafting or getting some goalies elsewhere. He's definitely going to be a part of that. So I think that's a fair contract.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this last week. I don't think my opinion has changed. It's 3 years between 2.5 to 3, I think, was kind of where we landed on that, based on some comparables. I think you had them as like Gustafsson was one of the goalies that you had as comp. So whichever comps you had that you shared with us last week on HABS, I think was pretty dang. So I think if they can lock that in, then that'll be good. Like we talked about last week, there's no question that he's established himself as an NHL goaltender, which was not the case at the beginning of the year. Was still kind of a bubble NHL guy. So now he's established himself. So in my view, we have 50% of the goaltending equation worked out. So that's great. 50% is good. It's good to have that part figured out. Now we need to go figure out, give him somebody to compete against a little bit, as we kind of develop into a contender.
Awesome. Great about that. Luc Laforcine is in the house. Welcome back, Mr. Luc Laforcine. Welcome. Thanks to be with us. Yes, 2 years for $1 million run. It was. You still have 1 more year to go. Pick number 5. We talk about this, but maybe not. But the last couple of weeks, or maybe 1 or 2 weeks now, the Rand Leonard increasing. David Rimbacher is increasing, and then you have Michkov again. So my point to you is that did you change your mind? We still go with Michkov, or if you have not with Michkov, are you gambling, or you go with the security card? Like with this player, you don't make any mistake. You know where he's going to be in the NHL. So I would like to hear from both of you. Let's start with Marko on that one.
Well, Coach, I think we've talked about this, that I'm not in for a safe play. There's no more being safe here. Like we need elite assets. That's my opinion, right? Like we have lots of good to middle, kind of skilled prospects or whatever. So I think you need to swing for the fences. So if Michkov is there, I think you do it, unless there's something that Bobroff knows about his situation that would preclude you from doing that. If everything is cool and you're comfortable that he's going to be able to play in the amount of time that we're all aware of, like say if he's able to come in 3 years, then to me that's where you go. To me, Ryan Bacher is not the guy that you take at number 5. Like it's, I just don't see that. I think that there's better options there, better than a top 4 defenseman, right? He's not going to be a top pairing defenseman, or he might be, but like on a pretty average team. So I think whether it's Leonard or Michkov or Fantilli or whoever drops that, like whichever is the best forward available, in my opinion, who you take. This is not a draft that is really graced with lots of like elite defensemen, right? So to me, Ryan Bacher is more of like between 8 to 12 is where I see him going. But these drafts have their own flow, right? Like sometimes I think I heard somebody mention that there's not many drafts where a defenseman hasn't went in the top 6, right? I think it's only happened once. So it wouldn't be shocking, but I just hope it's not the Habs that do it.
ENORTAP?
Yeah, I think Ryan Bacher becomes more of an issue if that trade with Washington comes into play and we get the 8th pick instead of the 5th. Then that might make more sense at that stage. But I would definitely not consider him in the top 5. For me, I think I agree with Marco. I think it's a no-brainer. You go with Michkov. The resume is there. Does he have areas to improve in? Absolutely. I think every player that comes into the NHL has something to work on. That's part of the developmental process. But when they're comparing him to a close Bedard in terms of the talent level, then you've got to swing for the fences here and take Michkov.
Yeah. I still debate me now because I think like you guarantee with Rindbacher to become a defenseman number 2 in NHL at any team. That's how he's going to be. Right now, he's the best defenseman behind Maurice Zaiders. If you look about all the experts, they talk about him, he has the best cap control at any player right now at that age for the last 3 years, at any defenseman, just behind Maurice Zaiders. Now, he's going to be a power play second unit, but he's going to be your best defenseman as the PK and on the defensive zone. He's have an amazing, great cap control. He's a 6'2". Now, he don't hit like Romanov, but he can hit, but he can skate. That's the most important thing about this. He's going to improve him. This is a guaranteed card. So you get at least a top pairing defenseman with Caden Cooley. That's you don't gamble, is done deal. Now, Leonard, the only thing about him is this, again, we get not a big winger. We get a 6 foot. But you get a Likonen 2.0 with better hands, better skill, better accuracy. That's what you get with him. Michkov, it's 50-50. That's who we are right now with Michkov. 50-50. He can be a great, but he can be. The biggest problem for him is only 5'9". So defensive zone coverage is lost, but he's a guy have a skill. He can score every time that. But how he can play in NHL at 5'9", but the time we tell us with him. So Montreal can go with guarantee wise, and they be sure they get something, or they take a gambling right there and go with Michkov, but nothing we guarantee that. We never know what could happen in the future, but that's what I believe for me.
I don't know.
So you're more kind of, so to me, at the draft is not the time to be talking or even thinking about roster construction, right? Like what you're talking about is more roster construction.
No, talking about the Montreal Canadiens have no right defenseman in the future. So you get now a solid defenseman for the future. And when you compare Rindbacher, he's going to be the first defenseman out of this draft, right? So you compare him, like what's fun? You always to say, okay, what it would be in 5 years Example, Leonard versus Rainbacher and Michka versus Leonard. Is it like a 30 points difference? Is it 25 point? What Leonard can bring, what Rainbacher can bring on the table. That's what the style of the player like him. I don't think so. Montreal is very close, like he has on the right side.
But so that's what
I don't know.
You're saying. You're saying exactly what I just said. Is so you're taking into consideration the needs that Montreal has versus who is the very best player.
But again, no, I compare all three players. I just tell you what you compare. Like just said, someone it's almost even. I would say, look a minute, if we even what to get another plus 6 foot when we have already 5'10", 5'11" already and winger versus a defenseman when we don't have those kind of defensemen like Rebecca. About that, that's my point behind that. It's a guarantee that he give you a security right there. Now we don't know what Michigan can become. That's the only thing. Then Montreal can gambling or not. That's my point behind that. That if with him.
To me, so I don't know. Maybe we're misunderstanding each other, but you're saying exactly that they should pick by need because they already have. So to me, that's very dangerous to do. A couple weeks ago, I gave the example of the couple drafts where we drafted all these left-handed defensemen one after another because we wanted someone to play with Weber. Okay, but now we have too many left-handed defensemen. We didn't pick right-handed defensemen because we thought Petrie and Weber were going to be there for another 5 years. But then Weber retires and Petrie gets traded, and now we're short of you're chasing your tail, right? So you just pick the best player that you think has the.
That's my point. He is.
No, but that's not
my point.
That's not what
Rainbacher is. If you don't take it, I guarantee you one right now. Ariza Coyotes won't take David Rainbacher. I guarantee that is out on number 6. Number 7 is going to be Leonard. That's going to happen. Now Montreal is going to be Devoski at number 8 if they trade with Washington. That would be the worst pick. Any team pick Devoski top 10, this is going to be the worst pick in NHL.
Yeah, I agree with you, but again, you just finished that saying that
not
he's
a
the
number
safest.
5.
You just said he's the safest, not the best. So, like you're to me, like I've said, at this point in our development, you have to swing for the fences here. I would rather them swing for the fences and get the most skilled person, as long as he meets the criteria of he has character. Like I'm not saying you want to get somebody who's a bad person just because they don't have good work habits and all those things, right? But choose the most talented player that meets your criteria in terms of the psychological profile that you want, and pick that person. That's what I'm hoping that they do. We've been burned many times before, whether it's Kotkaniemi, whether it's Galchenyuk, where we picked based on need, and it's not a good recipe in my humble opinion.
Well, and only because we're talking about here picking at number 5, right? I don't put Reinbacher at 1 to 5. I'll be honest with you. Even at 8, if we were to make a trade and get the 8th draft pick, and Reinbacher's gone, I mean, you could still get Pellikka, and it's not much of a drop off. I know he's a smaller defenseman, 5'11", but his offensive prowess is a lot more than what Reinbacher can offer. I know you want that strong, big defenseman, but I mean, Pellikka is not a lot of a drop off.
We have a lot of big, strong defensemen too, right? But we have a lot of big, strong defensemen already, right? To me, Reinbacher,
right now,
the best comparable is Adam Larson that now plays for Seattle. To me, that's who I see him kind of developing into. So very solid. Again, he's playing top pairing minutes for Seattle right now, but on a really a championship team, he's probably, a number 3 defenseman, number 4 defenseman. That's kind of where I see his ceiling is Adam Larson. Very good defender, physical, not like Gudis, he's not a psycho, but just, good and physical, plays hard, very good defender, can move the puck, decent puck mover, but not really a creative guy at all. I don't see him being, maybe in a pinch, you can put him on a second power play unit, but I don't see him having a lot of success on there. He can get shots through, but he's not a really creative, kind of like guy who sees the ice that well. That's kind of how I see Reinbacher.
Yeah. And at this stage, I think also they're going to have a definitive idea of who and what they want to select with that number 5 pick. And if the player that they want is available, they will take him. Personally, I think he's not on this list of 3. I think they really want Smith, I'll be honest with you. But I don't know if he drops the 5 or whether they'll have to make something happen where they get the 4th pick overall and pick him at that point, only because of the familiarity that he has with Hughes, and he knows what he's getting with him. And when we say, you're getting a player that will work for you, and you know exactly what he's capable of, Smith is your man.
This conversation really makes me wish that I was on the show last year, so I could have been in on your debates around Shane Wright and Slavkovsky. That would have been fun.
Yeah, now you're going to tell me at zone 28. So Koji was right. He was picked before top 10. Reinbacher, he was the first defenseman out in this NHL draft 2023.
I agree. He'll be the first defenseman out.
He'll be the first defenseman.
No, you just said we'll be sending that Pelika.
No, I didn't say that. I said if we don't get Reinbacher, let's say at number 8, because he hasn't, not Reinbacher, sorry, Reinbacher's pick, let's say at 6 or 7, and then we have the 8th pick and we get Pelika, I'm saying it's not much of a drop off.
Oh, okay. So I thought you said
that's what
okay.
I'm saying. Yeah.
I got it.
No, I wouldn't take Pelika ahead of him, but I think you're getting a solid player anyways, a defenseman.
Yep, that'd be good. Let's move on again for a couple of things. We are 10:15. I don't know, 60 minutes. It put me nervous. We take 2 hours when we talk all together. We're going to move on to the next thing about the NHL hiring. About this, we have a couple of vacancies: Toronto, Calgary, Anaheim, Rangers, Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus Blue Jacket. Maybe give us a little bit more, 1 or 2 things about what you expect, what could be, what prediction you want to mention about any team. I just open up the door here. If you heard a rumor or if you think what happened, so open up. Let's go.
Well, apparently Trey Living already has had 1 interview with Toronto. For me, I think this is his job to lose. I don't see them going outside of Trey Living. I think he fits the bill in terms of what Shanahan spelled out, in terms of having a more experienced GM who's got a lot to offer. He's built a good team in Calgary. I know that this year they didn't make the playoffs, but there's a number of reasons why that didn't happen. He knows how to now deal. He learned from his experience with Gaudreau and Tkachuk. He knows how to deal with the Matthews and Marner situation. And he'll get that resolved right away. So to me, that's the best fit. I know there's been discussion around Bergevin going there. I don't see it. But I mean, stranger things have happened. I just don't see it as a great fit.
Oh man, that would just be the universe. Just to me, I root for chaos most of the time, so that would be the funnest turn of events, right? To see Bergevin in Toronto, it's kind of like seeing Pat Burns coach the Bruins. Just kind of weird. But yeah, I think that would be the funnest option. But yeah, I think to me, Tree Living makes the most sense. There's some other, because Shanahan has said that he wants somebody experienced, right? So that doesn't leave a lot of options out there. You have maybe Jason Botterill, who's the guy that that's on that list as well. So there's some options there, but similar to what I was saying about how Dubas wouldn't want to take that job in Pittsburgh. Like I would, if I was a candidate for this job, I'd be hesitant too, right? Because you hear these reports that Shanahan went to the core 4 and told them, guys, don't worry, nobody's being moved, right? So if that's true, like, you're not really setting up whoever you're going to hire for success, right? Like, it seems there's been some rumors there that Shanahan's had kind of his thumb on the scale a little bit when it comes to allowing those decisions. And maybe that's kind of what Dubas was trying to address in his contract negotiation, where he didn't really want to, he wanted to change the reporting structure of what was happening because he wanted more control over what he was building, right? So if that's the case, if those, I'm sure hockey's a very small world. So if that's true, you know, that's something that you would certainly reconsider when you're taking that job. So listen, there's a million podcasts about the Leafs. So let's talk about some of the other teams that there's a little less information on. Elliot Friedman had some good information yesterday on Hockey Night Canada in 32 Thoughts there in the intermission, talking about Columbus potentially reaching out to Patrick Roy. That, again, like as a Montreal fanboy, that would be another interesting one to see Patrick Roy kind of come back into the NHL. Not as a GM, obviously, but as a coach. I see a good fit for Roy also in Ottawa would be a good fit for him. But Ottawa is kind of a strange situation, right? Like from what we're hearing, the different ownership groups all have kind of different candidates that they're talking to, right? So it's really hard to know. And if I was Kyle Dubas, that would be my preferred destination, would be to land in Ottawa, because you have a lot of raw resources to work with to build something interesting, right? But the thing is like each ownership group probably has their list of preferred candidates. So I don't know if they're as knowledgeable about hockey. They just kind of, usually how this works is the owner goes to Bettman and says, hey, do you have any good candidates you think that would work for us? That's kind of how Jeff Molson got connected with Jeff Gordon, right? Like he talked to Bettman and he recommended Jeff Gordon to be the president of the whatever the hell his title is, right? So I think a lot of these owners, get some advice from the league as to who maybe they should be candidates, right? So should be interesting. But on these other ones, Calgary, it's apparently a very, very long list of candidates for the coaching job there, ranging from people that are internal to a lot of different external candidates. Like the list is too long. We were joking in the chat yesterday about Peter Laviolette, the eternal mission to coach every single freaking team in the NHL keeps going. Looks like he's going to probably land in New York is kind of where that looks. So lots of moving parts here, guys. Like it's quite the carousel. I don't remember there being this many GM and coaching openings all at the same time, right? Like it's pretty crazy. So if you're somebody who's been waiting to jump back in, and you don't get in a window like this, then you have to seriously ask yourself the question of whether you'll ever come back in, because this is kind of a lot of different openings, right? Like if you watch the NHL Network, they have Bruce Boudreau on there as an analyst, and he's been pretty open about the fact that he's a little disappointed that he hasn't heard anything or been talked to, right? So as a former coach, it's probably hard to come to the realization that, yeah, I'm not getting any calls, right? Like that must be a really tough transition.
Yep.
Yeah, and the ones that are still available, like you look at guys like John Chaika, who was with Arizona. Even though he has some experience, they left some, shall we say, controversial situations behind them, right?
Yeah.
Even Botterhill to a certain extent. So it's not like there's a clear cut, candidate that everyone's chasing, right? It makes it a lot difficult. So they'll have to wait and see, because either you promote internally, like maybe the Leafs could have with Brandon Pradham, and gone that direction, which I don't think they will. Or you have to take your chance and get a rookie GM and hope that you surround them with some pieces that gives him, a sounding board when he has to make certain decisions. So it's not going to be easy.
Yep. Sorry about that. We'll move on to next thing, Memorial Cup. Guys, Seattle, Kamloops, Quebec, Peterborough. First of all, Seattle and Quebec won the first game. I think today Kamloops play Peterborough, I think tonight. And Quebec play tomorrow night, Monday night. So they bet, Beck and Davidson are in the tournament for Seattle and Peterborough. Maybe give us an overview and give us an idea who's going to win. How's your prediction? Next Sunday, we're going to know a little bit more where we at that tournament anyway.
Yeah, I love this just almost as much, or probably even more than the World Championship. It's such a such a great tournament. Like they say, the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win. I don't know, man. The Memorial Cup is pretty damn hard. You have to win multiple championships to do it, right? Like you have to win your own league's championship, and then you have to go into this round robin with the champions of the other leagues, right? So it's so cool and a great opportunity to see these young players. In addition to the top prospects, it's the emotional stories of overagers that it's probably going to be their last game in pro hockey, right? It's such a like emotional thing, right? Like you see like a 18-year-old kid, or even 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid sometimes, and he gets eliminated, and then he knows that's probably the last time he'll play this high level of hockey in his life. So it's such an emotional, amazing tournament. So in terms of my take on kind of who's going to win here, like I really like Seattle. I'm trying to remember the name of it's not Rittich, but who's the goalie that was Team Canada's goalie for Seattle? It's not Rittich, Illich, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
So. I think
yeah, he was the goalie for Team Canada. He's a bit of a smaller guy, like just at 6 foot, but he just has a way of coming up in big moments, and that was kind of the case against Peterborough last night. So I really like Seattle. They have really, really solid team. But Peterborough too, like, I guess we have a bias because of Beck, but I really like Hoffman as well too, like the New York Rangers pick. But, if you look at just the overall performance of the teams, like there's no doubt Quebec had just rolled over their league, right? And they had a really strong first win. And Patrick's got them going at a pretty high level here. So I would probably say I would see Seattle and Quebec battling it out in the final. And I would guess that Seattle, just on the virtue of their goaltending, will get through.
Black Dragon said Milich. So I just want to reconfirm with you.
Milich.
Thanks so much, Dragon Noir, about that. ENORTAP.
My heart, for obvious reasons, is with Peterborough, but I think Seattle's looking very solid. With Brad Lambert and the Colton Dock as well. They're really performing well. Dylan Gunther is having a good tournament as well. They look solid to me. I know Quebec is doing really well themselves, but if I had to pick a team to win this, I'd go with Seattle.
Yeah, I would go with Seattle. Are you ready, guys? Because I have something for you. The new format playoff NHL, exactly like Memorial Cup. So Atlantic Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, they play one game each one of them, and then the best of them go on the semifinal, and then 1 and 2, the best of the Atlantic versus the Metropolitan, and then we do the playoff.
Oh, you mean like a play-in? A play-in?
Yeah. So that the first one, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, they play a round robin at the beginning, and then after that you move on to 1 and 2, and then you go back to 1 and 2. Now that 1 and 2 play best of 7. That's my point.
Coach, let's dedicate a whole show this summer on that topic, because there's a lot of elements. Yeah, but let's have a show this summer all about.
But it's because my lights turned on when you said this is a great tournament. Like, it's not easy to win every time that. So. That's what the reason I said that about that one. So go to finishing the show. We crossed the 02, so I want to leave a little bit more, tell us a little bit more what you think, what's going on happening here about both team, and what last week we thought it was going to be a possible one way. Now we see this one now is getting very interesting. We did not know last week, by the way, because it was only game number 1. I think it was just done. But what you take now, what's going to happen within Vegas could go tonight? Is it over and 6? Is it going to be and 7? And if it's 7, who's going to win? Do you think Dallas can come back or not?
Go ahead, Anderson.
Well, I think, I think Vegas. Well, I don't think. I know that Vegas has the greater depth. When you look at, with the exception of maybe last night's game, that they had 11 players in this round that have multiple point games compared to Dallas, who only had at the time 2. Now, last night, a couple of other guys were added to that list, like I think Suter and Pavelski as well. So they have 5. But to me, they're a more complete team. Now, the only thing is they've faltered. Yesterday, they had I think they were saying somewhere in the low 20s in terms of turnovers that allowed Dallas to really take over that game. And it's starting to look like maybe Dallas is slowly starting to get into their head. I still think Vegas will pull it out, but I wouldn't be surprised if, now with Jamie Benn coming back, that this will give them an extra punch. He's been resting for a couple days. Hopefully he's contemplated on the stupidity of his suspension, and he'll play a much more guided game in terms of leadership and what's needed to win. Because if they have at least 3 balanced lines, it's going to be trouble for Vegas. Goaltending wise, I think we have to see Ottinger continue to play the good side of him, and that's when Dallas is at its best. Like, you can't blame Hill. He's done a very admirable job, an excellent job, I would even say, to this point. Yesterday, he made a couple of miraculous saves that I still don't know how he got to them. But I think, they're going to Dallas now. Vegas is a good road team as well. We can't knock that. But it's going to be an interesting game. All these games have been very, very close, right? With the exception of that 4-0 game. They've all two or three now have gone to overtime. 2 for sure that I recall. I think 3 actually. Game 4 I think was overtime as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so 3 game between 1, 2, and 4. Yeah. Number 3 was 4-0 in Vegas.
So I know they're up 3-2 right now, but I mean, you could come up with so many different variations. It could be Dallas that's up 3-2 with a little bit of luck.
Marko?
Yeah. I don't like making predictions because I don't like to brag, and I usually pretty accurate. Right? So I don't like to throw everybody off, but like I did pick Vegas for this one, and so I don't know like if it's going to go to 6 or 7, but here are the things that I'll be looking at to tell me that I think will be good indicators of what's going to happen. So the one thing I'll be looking at is Aiden Hill. You're right, like he was amazing yesterday, but he's never really been a number 1 before, right? So they're still going to be relying on him quite a bit, right? So does the pressure get to him a little bit? Like he's never really been in this position before. So, they need to have at least the same level of goaltending, or if not even a bit better from him, for them to kind of go on. On the Dallas side, the thing that I look for is, Vegas has been absolutely dominating teams 5-on-5 over the last couple of series. If you look at the Edmonton series, like it wasn't even close. Like Edmonton was like at 60% almost on their power play, but they were getting killed 5-on-5, right? So, and the early part of the series was the same for Vegas against Dallas. Last night was the first game where really Dallas was on par with them 5-on-5. I believe all goals were scored 5-on-5 last night. So if Dallas is going to extend this more, that trend needs to continue. They need to continue to match them 5-on-5. I feel like it's the Oscars. I'm being pulled out here, but so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that should tell us all we need to know about whether the series extends more.
And to finish the show, guys, we want Vegas or Dallas for the Philadelphia Panthers. Marko?
I'd say, to me, the best matchup for Florida would be Dallas. I don't like Florida's chances against Vegas.
And Mr. ENORTAP?
I agree. I think Dallas would be the better matchup for Florida.
Yep, it will be interesting to see what's happening. Don't forget the final Stanley Cup start June 3rd, 5th, 8th, 10, and we go all the way like that. So it will be interesting. We're going to do all the game. It was great having everybody in the chat. We appreciate a lot, all the moderators, everything like that. We thanks everybody. We'll be back next Sunday. We're going to do this this show until the end of the season. and then I'm going to finish for take a break during the summer. But we want to thank Marko and ENORTAP again to join the co-host again for the show. And I can wait to see you next time. And that's to conclude another BRUNCH here Sunday Rendezvous. We wish you an amazing, great weekend. But before we leave, we want to tell this to Marko and ENORTAP.
You are awesome.
Here we go.
You are amazing.
Here we go.
You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
Here we go, guys. Be well, be healthy. Find a way not only to dominate your date, but find a way to dominate the first half of what? Mr. ENORTAP.
You're 2023.
You did it again. Have an amazing, great week, everybody. I can wait to see you next Sunday. Have a good one, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night, guys.